to the May edition of Cooking Level 0. Today we are learning how to make sushi rolls. So this does include several steps, but once you learn how to do it, you have like an infinite amount of combinations you can make to make some really cool sushi rolls and be able to eat it at home without having to necessarily go out and spend a bunch of money on it. So I hope you guys have fun. Let's get started. So first, real quick, I'd like to go over the tools that you're gonna need for making rice. If you're really lazy like me, then you might want a rice cooker rather than having to do it on the stove top, but honestly, it's pretty easy either way. We'll go over details on that a little bit later. We also have cling wrap that just makes it so stuff doesn't stick onto your hands. Bamboo sushi rolling mats. You don't need these, but it does make your life a lot easier. You need a knife to cut your vegetables and your different fillings. Measuring spoons and measuring cups for measuring things. Rice paddle, I kind of prefer a plastic one versus a bamboo one just because it doesn't stick as bad, and then a bowl to mix it all in. Okay, now for the ingredients you're going to use for making your sushi. You're obviously going to need rice. It's very important. Traditionally you use short grain rice for this, but I mean, you can use other ones if you have to. You also want to get nori, which is seaweed paper sheets, seaweed paper sheets, sorry. You want to make sure that it is designated as being sushi nori because it is thicker than some of the other seaweed sheets you will find in the store that are more made for like snacking. Those are thinner and won't hold up to sushi making as much. You'll also need salt and sugar and rice wine vinegar. This is rice vinegar, I promise. I dropped the bottle on the floor this morning while I was packing this, so I had to put it in a new container. You'll need those to season your rice, and then you of course need your condiments, your soy sauce, your wasabi, and your pickled ginger. But honestly, the combinations you can do with condiments and different toppings are pretty much endless. Today, for the purposes of this video, I will only be doing a cucumber roll so that you guys can get the general gist of how you prepare the fillings for your roll without me having to prepare too much. Plus cucumber rolls are one of my favorites, so they're very refreshing, and it's a little hot today, so yeah. So we will go ahead and get started on teaching you guys how to use all this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is prepare our rice. What we want to do is we want to measure out the amount of rice we're going to be using. In the case of this recipe, I'm going to be using 3 cups worth because the recipes I found were 3 cups of rice for the different condiments to make it into sushi rice, so it's just easier. So you'll use your measuring cup for this. We'll see if I even brought 3 cups of rice. That might be the real question. This is why we measure over bowls, guys, because you'll dump it like me. And you just put it into the pot. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to rinse the rice, and I will show you guys why in a minute. I'm going to go add some water to this, and then you guys will see. Okay, so I just went and I added some water to it, and you guys can probably already see literally all I did was add just a random amount of water, but if you kind of mix it up, you'll see like it turns really super cloudy, and that's because there's a bunch of starch in the water. And also sometimes other stuff because you know this stuff was growing out in the fields. So what you'll want to do is you want to add water and dump it off into the sink until this becomes clear. Okay, so this is my rice once I've washed it a few times. You guys can probably kind of see the water's still a little cloudy, but you can definitely see the rice underneath it. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. What we do then is a tip I found, and I have never done this before, so we're gonna try it now. I found out that they recommend you actually let the water in the rice sit for 30 minutes so it can soak up some of the water, and then pour that off one last time and then measure your water in before cooking it. So we are going to do that. That is also how you generally cook. The best practice for cooking like beans and other grains to prep them. It's to let them soak like either overnight or like for at least a few minutes before you cook them. So we're gonna try that, and then we will be back to measure out our final bit of water. Okay, so now that it is soaked for about half an hour, what I did was I dumped off the water one more time, and then I added the right measurement of water for it to cook. So basically, when you've washed the rice and you're putting it in the rice cooker, you want a 1-to-1 ratio of rice and water. So because I used 3 cups of rice, I used 3 cups of water. So now that that is ready, I am going to do it the lazy way. Plop it in the rice cooker. And in about an hour, it will be done and we can move on to our next step. If you decide to do it on the stove top, what you will do is you'll use a 2-to-1 ratio of water to rice. You'll bring the water to a boil, stir in the rice, bring it back up to a simmer where bubbles are rising to the surface, but it's not a full boil. Stir again, and then you cover the pot and turn the heat to low, but it's still kind of simmering. And you let it go with that for 17 minutes. Then you start checking every few minutes to see if it's tender and most of the water is gone. Once it's tender and the water is gone, which could take up to 25 minutes, then you'll be able to turn off the stove and let the rice sit for a couple minutes to finish absorbing the water. Then you open it and you fluff the rice. And we will still fluff the rice when it comes out of here, but we just have to do a lot less work. So yeah. Okay, so our rice is done. So what we're gonna do is we're going to, sorry, it's kind of steaming. So what you wanna do is like take your rice paddle. You might wanna get it wet so it doesn't stick, but you're just gonna kind of start fluffing your rice. And that basically just means you're kind of just pulling it up, trying not to smush it or anything, just trying to get some air into it. And what you'll wanna do as you're fluffing is I will just start putting some of it into the bowl that we're gonna use for mixing. I like to mix it and make my sushi rice separately so that it can start cooling down because I don't want to burn my fingers, and also just so that I can, you know, only do part of it at a time and slowly add in the ingredients. So what you're going to want to do to make your sushi rice, put this here where you guys can see it, is you're going to want to do 3 cups rice, so that's all the rice in the pot. We're going to slowly add it into the bowl. We're going to add 1/3 cup of the rice vinegar. So I have my 1/3 cup measuring cup. You can also just use an actual like liquid measuring cup, but we're gonna use this for now. And I'm just gonna kind of drizzle it around. It's gonna be super strong on this part, but it'll get weaker as we start to add the rest of the rice in. Oh, it smells strong. And then we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar. So we're gonna shake it off to kind of get rid of the excess. 2, and then 3. That's our sugar. And then we're gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Watch me dump this everywhere again. 1. I'm doing 1/2 teaspoon, so I need 3 of them. 2, 3. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna use your rice paddle to start mixing everything. At first it's gonna be kind of liquidy because we don't have a lot of rice in here, but that's okay, because as we add the rice in, it's going to get better mixed together, and it also lets like the salt and the sugar and the vinegar mix together so that it will spread more evenly around when we put more rice in. So I'm gonna start adding more of the rice. Try not to smush, try not to clump too much. When it looks like it's mostly covered, we will get some more. I lost some rice, guys. Sacrilege. Forgive my poor squeaky little rice cooker. It's been used for a while. We use it a lot. So we can put that aside. And we'll just start folding, because folding is very good for this. And then fluffing, and then folding, and then fluffing, and then folding. And you'll want to taste as you go, because some of you might like it a little bit more sour than others. Some of you might like it a little bit saltier, some of it more sweet. I tend to like sweet, so I mean, and I tend to not do too much vinegar in mine. This is probably gonna be a little vinegary for me, but it's okay. So that's probably pretty good and incorporated, so then we get to taste it. Careful, because it's still hot. Yeah, that tastes really good. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this aside as we start getting the toppings ready. Okay, so for your fillings, you're gonna want to probably do, you know, you can do a couple different things. I'm going to make a cucumber roll just because it's nice and easy, and it at least shows you guys what you need to do whenever you want to prep any kind of filling for this. So basically what I'm gonna do, I have an English cucumber that's kind of big, so I'm gonna kind of slice it into thirds. And we do want to technically skin this. I forgot my peeler though, so I'm just gonna kind of use my knife and very, very poorly chop it up. I have snacks for later now. You know, just get most of it off. And then what you wanna do is you want to cut it in half, probably cut it in half again, but your goal is to create little, like basically little sticks that you're gonna put into your roll. So you don't have to make them necessarily very small, like you can just do like that, or you can even just quarter it, but if it's like that big, then you're not really gonna be able to put anything else in your roll because it's kind of like a burrito. If you overdo it, it just kind of explodes. You just kind of, and you can kind of learn how big you want your filling to be, how big you want your roll to be, and it is kind of a guessing game. I mean, in all likelihood, mine will end up being a lot of rice because that tends to be where mine end up, but that's basically how you're gonna prep pretty much any type of filling. So if you want avocados, you're gonna make them into sticks. If you want shrimp, make them into sticks. If you want, you know, cream cheese, sticks. So pretty much everything is just try to put it into these long cylinders so that you can fill your roll with it. So that's pretty much that. Okay, so now we are ready to put our sushi rolls together. We have our filling, we have our rice, we have our nori sheets for sushi making, and we have our mats. If you don't have the mats, it's okay. You can make it without the mats. It just kind of makes forming a nice even roll a little bit harder, but you really don't need it. It's okay. So what you want to do first is you want to put a piece of saran wrap down on your bamboo sheet. I have two kind of lined up right now, so if you see that later and it confuses you, that's what happened. Then you are going to take your nori and you are going to plop it down. And then what you want to do is you want to take the rice and you want to basically cover the entire nori. You don't want to smush it too hard, but you want to make sure you're pretty much covering everything. And you will, if you want to do like rice on the outside, you will have to flip this over and you can use another sheet of saran wrap for that if you want. So I just kind of, and you can you leave a little bit empty on the end, it's totally okay. So that's kind of your goal, is just not too empty, not smushed down, but you know, even. So then what you're gonna do is you wanna take your fillings and you wanna start lining them up like 2/3 of the way, like 1/3 of the way into the roll. You don't wanna have too much, but you don't wanna have too little, because if you have too little, then it's gonna be pretty boring. So, you know, it's a fine balance. You will have to practice to probably get the right balance, but it's okay. I believe in you guys can do it. So now we're ready to start rolling, and this is one of the harder parts, because what you need to do is you need to start rolling this side over the filling and then kind of tuck it in on the other side of the filling before you keep rolling. And as you're rolling, you have to make sure you're keeping the saran wrap out of your way. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So we're gonna use the mat, just the one mat. We're gonna hold our fillings. We're gonna tuck, 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 like that, and then we're gonna squeeze a little bit to kind of form that inner thing. So just kind of into the shape of a roll. Then we're gonna pull this out And we're gonna use the mat, but keep the saran wrap out of the way. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Always keeping the saran wrap out of the way is the hardest part, I swear, but it does make it a lot cleaner. And the last one, like that. So once it's completely rolled, you want to just take a minute to kind of use the mat to help you form the roll. So how you would see it at a sushi restaurant. And you don't want to be too hard on it right now, but you do want to apply some consistent pressure, because if you don't, then when you cut it, it's going to fall apart. So after that, you should have your roll basically formed already, which is nice. So it's ready to go. It's also already mostly wrapped in saran wrap, so you can just finish wrapping it in saran wrap, kind of tuck in the ends. We have some cucumber kind of peeking out, so I will get another piece. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We're gonna put it in the fridge and let it cool off so that everything has a chance to kind of harden, and that'll make it a lot easier when we go ahead and slice it. Okay, so now we're down to the last but most important part of this. Please ignore my onigiri. It's not supposed to be made with sushi rice, but I kind of like them with sushi rice because they have so much flavor. I had some rice left over when I was making these. So basically, once you've let your roll cool, you want to slice it into pieces. Mine's not cool, so it's probably gonna be a little messy. Please forgive me. It sometimes helps when you wet your knife. It makes it so it slices through a lot cleaner. So I'll be right back and I'm gonna wet my knife down so I can show you. For you guys, it'll probably be easier because you'll probably be right next to a kitchen sink, but I'm a little farther away. So basically you want to slice in slicing motions, so back and forth without a lot of downward pressure. And you can tell even after that first cut that it's already kind of starting to get sticky on my knife, which means I need to wash it again. But your goal is just kind of try to create nice little sushi pieces. And you can dip them in soy sauce and wasabi, or like teriyaki sauce or sriracha, basically whatever you want to make them the way you like to eat them. So there's lots of different ways. There's like an infinite number of combinations, and it is actually super easy to make. And they are pretty healthy for you. And I really, really enjoy them. So, and like I said, if you have extra rice, you can even make a little onigiri, even though it's supposed to be with plain rice, not sushi rice, but it's okay. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys try this out and learn how to make sushi on your own. So have a great day.